Number 8. Petty vandalism. In August 2022, a 19-year-old farmer named Melanie May did some stupid and pettiful things to get back at her ex-lover, Jack McMahon, after their short on-and-off relationship ended. She damaged Jack's property and made some very threatening gestures toward him. It all went down in Tapuli, Cheshire, when Jack met Melanie on a dating app. They only lasted together for about 3 weeks, and while they weren't in a formal relationship, they had been intimate with each other. Jack decided to end their connection, which triggered Melanie's anger and led her to lash out. On August 12th, Jack wanted Melanie to leave his home. Despite a friend coming to pick her up, Jack allowed her to stay at his place. But the next day, an argument started between the two, during which Melanie made threats, suggesting that Jack's property might get vandalized. She also warned him about his car. Later that day, Jack was told at work that a black Nissan pickup truck was parked outside his house, and it was later found out that his property had indeed been damaged. Among the damages were apples and spray paint stuffed up the exhaust of his car, and derogatory words spray painted on his fence and gate. The tires of the vehicle had also been deflated. When Jack returned home, he found Melanie at his doorway, and she told him that her family from London was on the way. Although she did not specify the reason for their visit, Jack interpreted it as a threat. Melanie was arrested and charged with several offenses, including criminal damage, theft, and harassment. She admitted to these crimes at Warrington Magistrates Court. Melanie was 7 months pregnant at the time of her trial in February 2023, and she was living in her own flat. This situation stemmed from a previous relationship, not with Jack. A 24-year-old man was also arrested in connection with the vandalism, but he denied any wrongdoing. The court recognized the immaturity and pettiness in these actions, and in the end, they ordered Melanie to pay Jack £100 in compensation for the damage she had done. Number 7. The worst revenge. On September 22nd, 2015, 29-year-old Mark Van Dongen's life changed forever when he had acid thrown on him. He sustained some of the most unimaginable burns all over his body. Before this incident, he excelled academically in the Netherlands before moving to the UK to pursue his studies at Bristol University. It all started to go downhill when he met 48-year-old Berlina Wallace around 2010. Despite the huge age gap and suspicions from those around him, Mark got into a relationship with Wallace, a fashion student. Kees Van Dongen, his father, believed that the older woman might have been using Mark. He felt that Mark was deeply in love with her, more so than the other way around. The strangeness of their relationship came to a head in August 2015. When Mark's relationship with Wallace ended and he began seeing someone else. Wallace's actions took a sinister turn when she bought sulfuric acid online, tampered with the label, and researched acid attacks. On the day she got the acid, Mark called the police to report harassment by Wallace. The horrific incident happened when Mark stayed overnight at Wallace's flat. In the early morning hours, Wallace woke him by throwing acid on him. The day after the attack, Kees got a call from his son Mark. He urgently asked his father to come to him. Without hesitation, Kees drove to Gloucester, arriving at 5 in the morning. The sounds of Mark's screams greeted him as he stepped out of the van. In his distress, Kees pounded on the door until it opened. Mark's room was right at the entrance, and what Kees witnessed was horrifying. Mark was in a state of distress, covered in his own feces. Kees managed to calm his son, comforting him with the assurance that he was there. Using towels and flannels from his van, Kees cleaned Mark up. While in pain, Mark admitted his fear and told his father that he wanted to go with him to Belgium. Kees shared his experience when he visited the ward where his son was admitted, after being attacked by Wallace for the first time. The burns from the acid attack covered 25% of his body, and it left Kees in disbelief. Mark's body and face was so full of burns that he was almost unrecognizable. Since the burns covered a significant portion of his body, there was extensive surgical removal of damaged skin. His face was so heavily scarred, and his left eye lost sight, while his right eye's vision was greatly diminished. Mark's distress when he saw his injuries was painful, and he pleaded to end his life, unable to bear the thought of living with such disfigurement. In the aftermath of the attack, Mark endured 4 months in a coma while receiving intensive care. His left leg had to be amputated due to the severity of his injuries. He gradually regained partial consciousness and communication abilities. Through the painstaking effort of using an alphabet board, Mark relearned how to communicate by sticking out his tongue for each chosen letter. But despite his eventual return of speech through a speaking valve, he remained paralyzed from the neck down. Keith stood vigilantly by his son's side, providing support during the process of recovery. Mark's condition deteriorated at times, prompting concerns for his mental and emotional state, but Keith's steadfast presence helped bring him back from those dark moments. By November 2016, Mark's condition had significantly improved, but he was still left paralyzed from the neck down and needing lifelong care. After 29 specialists participated in his treatment at Southmead, it became evident that his care required a dedicated facility. Mark's resilience and desire for some independence were evident when he moved to a care home in Gloucester. In Belgium, Keith offered his own home as a comforting environment for Mark. But Mark's worsening condition, including a chest infection that required a potentially voice-depriving throat tube, led him to contemplate euthanasia. 3 consultants concluded that Mark met the criteria for euthanasia under Belgian law due to unbearable physical and psychological suffering. The pain he endured was endless, with the sulfuric acid continuing to corrode his bones and causing unrelenting agony. On January 2nd, 2017, Mark's euthanasia took place. Despite his situation, Mark remained positive and resolute. His father stood by him, honoring his wish to be accompanied during his final moments. At 7:15 p.m., doctors confirmed Mark's readiness and followed the legal procedures for euthanasia. With a catheter inserted into his heart, Mark's suffering came to an end. In May 2018, Wallace was sentenced to life in prison. Number 6. Not enough evidence. At around midnight on July 21, 2018, a woman from Colorado who was preparing for her upcoming wedding stabbed her fiancé to death after an argument over inviting his former lover to their wedding. Police responded to a disturbance report at the 6300 block of Cabana Circle, Colorado Springs. Upon arriving at the scene, officers found 31-year-old Brandon Watkins with a stab wound to his chest. Despite attempts to revive him, Watkins was pronounced dead at the scene. A bloody steak knife was used in the attack and was found on the kitchen table. The fiancé of the victim, 33-year-old Jacqueline Souza, told the police that they had gotten back home after celebrating their upcoming Las Vegas wedding at a bar. An argument had erupted between them over inviting Watkins's former girlfriend to the wedding. Souza accused Watkins of being unfaithful to her with his ex-lover. Souza gave varying accounts of the incident to the detectives. Initially, she claimed that she found Watkins with a knife in his chest in the kitchen after going to the bathroom. She said she panicked, removed the knife, and placed it on the table, but police found no evidence of a home invasion. Later, she claimed the possibility that Watkins stabbed himself after their argument. She also accused Watkins of becoming violent and threatening her with the knife during their quarrel, while retracting a statement about him putting the knife to her face. Souza's accounts were inconsistent with the evidence at the scene, including Watkins's position on the floor. She said that she had called the police and performed CPR on her fiancé until help arrived. Souza, who was in the process of divorcing her first husband while planning her second wedding, had been charged with second-degree murder. She was released on a $50,000 bond and was scheduled to appear in court on August 1st of the same year. Watkins and Souza had been in a relationship since August 2017. Watkins had even announced their engagement in a post on August 24th, sharing his excitement with friends and family. Shockingly, by October 2018, authorities concluded that there wasn't enough evidence to file murder charges against Souza. Number 5. Master of Deceit. In October 2019, a woman started her cunning scheme to get her ex-boyfriend into trouble. 20-year-old Courtney Island Ainsworth carried out a manipulative series of crimes where she created fake Instagram accounts to send herself threats and get her ex-boyfriend arrested. Using up to 30 fabricated profiles, she falsely implicated him in sending vile messages. 22-year-old Lewis Jolly revealed that they had a 2-year relationship that ended without any bad blood in October 2019. But when Courtney began seeing a new boyfriend named Declan Rice, that's when her false accusations began. According to the prosecutor, she made several calls to the police between July 15th and December 13th, 2020, submitting message screenshots and claiming that they were from Lewis. Her mother even reported that Lewis had threatened to stab her online. An interim stalking protection order was issued against Lewis on December 4th, along with bail conditions that included a curfew enforced by an electronic tag. Courtney's deceit lasted over 5 months. Her story started to unravel when Facebook data revealed that she had created at least 17 Instagram accounts using her email and IP addresses linked to her home and mobile phone. After her arrest, she confessed to setting up the fake accounts, prompting the Crown Prosecution Service to drop the stalking and assault charges against Lewis. Courtney reported to the police that Lewis had threatened to stab her, even claiming he warned of stabbing her in the chest. She even went as far as making 10 police statements accusing Lewis of harassment and stalking, which led to his arrest on 6 separate occasions. This resulted in him spending a total of 81 hours in custody, including an overnight remand. The consequences were significant. Lewis faced assault and stalking charges, was subjected to a stalking protection order, was issued with a home curfew and electronic tag, and lost his job. During the trial, Courtney's defense attorney argued that her actions were influenced by her immaturity and complex post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis. He emphasized that her reaction to the relationship breakdown would have been different if not for her mental health condition. But the judge criticized her actions, noting the shattering effect that it had on the victim and his family. Lewis's life changed massively due to the false accusations, and because of that, Courtney was sentenced to 10 months in jail and given a 10-year restraining order. Do you think Courtney deserved a longer sentence? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 4. The Wrong House. On July 22nd, 2022, a 49-year-old woman set fire to a home in Gold Hill, North Carolina, believing that it belonged to her ex-boyfriend, but it turned out to be the wrong address. This obviously led to serious consequences. The fire was ignited around 7:30 a.m. A vigilant neighbor saw 49-year-old Christy Louise Jones trying to set the house ablaze and quickly alerted the homeowner. The homeowner rushed outside and found bundles of wood along with a fire on his front porch. This fire appeared to have been started using chainsaw oil. While trying to extinguish the fire, the homeowner went to fetch a hose, but Jones had sabotaged the hose by plugging its end with a rubberizing liquid called Flex Seal. The homeowner saw Jones nearby and acted immediately. He grabbed a rifle and confronted her. Jones, who had one of the homeowner's dogs on a leash, was mumbling in response to the confrontation. According to reports, Jones also tried to ignite the propane tank situated at the side of the house. Additional damage was discovered, including a cut to the exterior of the homeowner's above-ground pool. As the sounds of approaching emergency vehicles became audible, Jones fled to her car and drove away. The homeowner managed to write down the car's license plate number. The police were able to track her down at her residence, leading to her apprehension and subsequent handcuffing. The arson incident led to a large amount of damage amounting to $20,000. The Rowan County Sheriff's Office investigated, and Jones was arrested and charged with felony first-degree arson, assault with a deadly weapon, and larceny of an animal. Her bail was set at $101,500. Based on information from a witness, it was suggested that Jones had a former boyfriend who owned property in the vicinity, but Jones and the owner of the targeted home were not acquainted with each other. In August 2023, Jones was sentenced to up to 25 years in prison. Number 3. A bitten tongue. In March 2009, 40-year-old Tracy Davies bit off a portion of her boyfriend's tongue while they were kissing on his 45th birthday. The incident took place in Newcastle and unfolded during a period of alcohol consumption. The couple had met through a Lonely Hearts column. Davies had asked her boyfriend, Mark Coghill, for a smoochy kiss, but she suddenly turned violent and bit down hard on his tongue after luring him into putting it in her mouth. This caused extreme pain, leading Coghill to tap her on the head to make her release him. Shockingly, Davies chewed through his tongue and spat it out on the floor. The attack was fueled by Davies' emotional distress as she wanted to have a baby but wasn't pregnant. During the sentencing, Judge John Evans branded Davies' actions as animalistic and labeled Coghill's injury as truly appalling. He mentioned that while courts have seen cases of people biting off noses and ears, biting off a tongue in this manner was unique. Despite the severe nature of the crime, the judge noted that Davies did not display remorse and yet considered her not to be a danger to society at large. He acknowledged the tremendous impact on Coghill, who lost a significant portion of his tongue, affecting his sense of taste and causing disfigurement. Coghill testified during the trial that he tried to defend himself but was unable to break free from Davies' grip on his tongue. He described her behavior as unsettling, with her letting out a satisfying sound after the attack. Davies was later found to have bitten Coghill's elbow after he had passed out from the pain. She then called an ambulance to the scene, leading to her arrest by the police. She even handed over the piece of Coghill's severed tongue in a plastic bag. Doctors at Newcastle General Hospital confirmed that while the severed piece of tongue was recovered, reattachment was not feasible due to the risk of infection. Davies was convicted of grievous bodily harm but cleared of the more serious charge of grievous bodily harm with intent. In her defense, she claimed to have no recollection of the attack, suggesting that Coghill had convinced her of her guilt. Davies' lawyer emphasized the role of alcohol in the incident and described both her and Coghill as deeply troubled individuals involved in an inappropriate relationship. Davies was sentenced to 3 years in jail, and she received it with no visible emotional reaction. Number 2. SevereJealousy. On August 23, 2017, 25-year-old Hasna Begum brutally stabbed her ex-lover, 23-year-old Italian part-time DJ Pietro Sanna. It all started when Begum began stalking Sanna on social media following their breakup. Begum, a former shop assistant at Clinton's, became increasingly jealous and aggravated after discovering that a woman named Giulia Consoni, whom Shanna had met on Tinder, was following him on Instagram. The crime took place in Canning Town, East London. Begum, who is a 4 feet 11 inches woman, entered Shanna's residence armed with a knife and carried out the attack, inflicting 36 stab wounds on him. She then fled the scene, taking Shanna's mobile phone and erasing his social media profiles in an attempt to cover her tracks. During her trial at Inner City London Crown Court, Begum's disturbing actions came to light. She had taken to stalking and threatening Consoni after finding out about her connection to Sanna. Begum even donned a blonde wig and black leather gloves before attacking Sanna, describing it as accessorizing. She attempted to defend herself in court by claiming she was acting in self-defense after Sanna assaulted her and grabbed a knife. But the jury swiftly found her guilty of murder after deliberating for only 2 hours. Judge Jeremy Dunn described her behavior as angry and pointed out that the numerous knife wounds, including those on Shanna's back, demonstrated an intense attack. He highlighted that the wounds caused severe blood loss and pierced his lungs. Begum's obsession with Shanna was evident from her actions following the attack. She changed his Instagram username and profile picture on his mobile phone. The court learned that Begum and Shanna had met while working in Canary Wharf, with Begum at Clinton Cards and Shanna at the sandwich chain Burley's. Their relationship was kept a secret due to Begum's traditional Muslim background, which did not allow her to drink or have boyfriends. But their relationship ended, leading to Begum's jealousy and eventually the gruesome attack. In her defense, Begum claimed that Shanna had invited her to his house that morning to discuss their relationship. She asserted that he threatened her with a kitchen knife when she confronted him about potential infidelity. Begum was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum sentence of 20 years. Number 1. A deadly text message. At around 1:15 a.m. on September 21st, 2020, an 18-year-old woman was taken into custody and accused of murder for the fatal shooting of a 20-year-old man during an attempted home invasion robbery in Jacksonville Beach. It all went down in a house on Penman Road North at 12th Avenue. The victim, Ezekiel Archuleta from Jacksonville, was shot and succumbed to his injuries after being discovered by officers responding to a burglary report. He was found in the front yard with gunshot wounds and later died in a hospital. Samantha Wiener's arrest was later announced by the Jacksonville Beach Police. It was believed that a text message from Wiener played a role in the events leading up to the shooting. According to Beth Archuleta, Ezekiel's mother, her son had kept a text message from Samantha that showed that she had asked him to participate in a robbery. Ezekiel and the man connected to his death both had romantic relationships with Wiener. Beth said that Wiener asked Ezekiel and another person to carry out a robbery at her ex-boyfriend's home on Penman Road on the day of the crime. During the incident, the homeowner felt threatened and shot and killed Ezekiel. But Beth disagreed with the portrayal of her son as a criminal. She mentioned that there was no evidence of a weapon, mask or gloves, and her son was dressed in a brand new white hoodie. Beth believed that her son visited the house out of curiosity and felt that the homeowner was aware of his arrival. But the police said that they lacked evidence to confirm this suspicion. Beth said that if it was not for the text message, her son might still be alive. She mourned her son's potential and was frustrated that he lost his life due to mistaken identity. Wiener was charged with second-degree felony murder and solicitation to commit robbery. While Wiener's ex-boyfriend was arrested for armed drug possession, he was not implicated in Ezekiel's death. No more information was revealed about the investigation since Wiener was charged. Which of these criminals stood out as the most shameless to you? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.